Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Driving in Belgium webinar that we are organizing together with KBC Brussels. As you know, Bright Expats is hosting every month a conference, or in those days, a webinar on very interesting topics for expats. Or for service providers for expat, as well as HR or mobility managers. So the topic of today will be driving in Belgium, which is a very interesting topic because it's changing sometimes from a month to another. We don't know that there is a new regulation, and we face these updates while we are in contact with town halls. For instance, the regulation I will share with you hasn't changed since March last year, so March 2019. So finger crossed, it will stay this way for the coming months. So this presentation can remain a good background information to keep in your record. So we will see together and look at together the EU driving license, the non-EU driving license, those that are recognized, those that are not recognized, what to do to make sure that you can regularize your driving license and be able to to drive in Belgium. And I will give you also a snapshot on the Belgian driving license. How does it look like? When we speak about driving licenses, of course, we have the EU countries. They have agreements between countries. So as you can see on the presentations, all these EU driving license, they have the EU flag, I mean their own flag, but with all the yellow stars. And on the right-hand side, you have some other driving license that are, for instance, from Israel or from the US. So these are non-EU driving license. Some of them are recognized, some of them are not. And I will share with you also the website where you can look at all the list of the countries that are recognized. So that will help you, because on these lists, you will be also able to look at precisely the format and all the details that are needed on the driving license to be recognized. So we will see that together later. The EU driving license. It's important to know that you can only hold one EU national driving license. So when someone is arriving in Belgium from Spain, it's fine to drive with the Spanish driving license because it's an EU one, it's a recognized one, and it's one. So they will not combine the Belgian one and the Spanish one at this stage. So a national EU driving license is any driving license issued by a member state of the EU or the European Economic Area. So you have to know, for instance, that Switzerland is not an EU driving license. However, we know it's on the continent, but it's not on the EEA. So it means that for these people that they have a Swiss driving license, they will need to go through the process of the recognized but non-EU driving licenses. So you can drive on the public roads in Belgium if you hold a valid one, of course. There is a validity on these cards, and it's very important that it's a valid one. So there is a but, and that's the process I would like to share with you and explain. So by the moment you hold a EU driving license that is valid, and of course this one will be recognized, it's okay to drive in Belgium. So what's the process for the EU nationals with this EU, I mean, not specifically actually a EU national, because we might have sometimes, you know, a US citizen, a US national living in Spain for a while, and he might have converted his US driving license to a Spanish one. So then he can, while moving to Belgium, use this one as the EU driving license for the registering of this license. So after your registration in Belgium has been completed, so they have the Belgian residence card, it's advisable to register the current driving license at the town hall. It's just a recommendation. And why is that? It's because since it's not mandatory, but by the moment it's lost or stolen, you might need to apply for, you can apply for a new Belgian driving license in Belgium. If it's not registered, you will need to apply for a new one in the country of origin. So as we know with our clients, the assignees and expats, it's not always easy to travel back to the home country. So it might be best to be in line with the recommendation and register it at the town hall. And then there are two different processes for the next step. You have an EU driving license without an expiry date. For instance, I can tell I got my driving license roughly in 2000. I still do have the folded driving license with no expiry date. So it means that the exchange of the driving license to a Belgian one needs to be done within 2 years after the registration. So that's mandatory for those with an EU driving license without an expiry date. The original driving license will be retrievable in the country of origin. So it means that the Belgian town hall will send that back, for instance, to the Barcelona town hall, if we keep the same example of the Spanish assignee. So without an expiry date, it's mandatory to exchange the driving license within the 2 years after your registration. So that's one of those dates that you need to keep in your agenda to make sure that you are in line with the legislation and the regularization. The second scenario is the EU driving license with an expiry date. So those cards that are the format of a bank card, they have a validity of 5 years. So also, these driving license needs to be exchanged within also these 5 years after your registration or before it expires, whichever comes first. So it's either within the 5 years after your registration or before the expiry date. Of course, you can directly, by the moment you are the assignee has registered in Belgium, he can directly exchange his driving license too. He doesn't need to wait for this period of time. But it's just that at least you know all these steps for the EU driving license regularization. I will make it. And the website I wanted to share with you and show is this one. So this is the one from the Ministry of Mobility in Belgium. So these are, it's in French. One is also available in Dutch, and the English version is not so well furnished as I would say the Dutch and the French version. So that's why I'm showing you the French one. So you see all the countries from the European Union, and you also have, if I click on it, for instance, the Allemagne means Germany. If I click on the PDF, I can have all the different formats of the German driving license. You see there is the image, there is where to pay attention to, all which details, and so on. So this might be useful for when you check how to say, the format, simply the format of the driving license. So all these German driving license are all these formats that are currently available in Germany for the German holder. Okay, so any other country will have, of course, the same, right? Spain, Italy, and so on. You will always need to click on the link to be able to look at the different formats. So that's for the Netherlands, for instance, and so on, right? So that's a good website to save in your bookmarks. And I will, of course, you will be able to look at this on our presentation. So that's for the EU driving license. You see, this one is quite straightforward. It's actually the easy part. And I don't know if you have any question on this one. If you have any, again, feel free to use the question or the chat box. There is, of course, the Brexit case. I know we have our dear Michael on the call as well. Michael has the UK citizenship as well, but the Belgian now. What about being with a British driving license, living in Belgium? What should you do? There are two scenarios. Prepare on time. That's always the good recommendation that we do as relocation, being on time, prepare and proactive. Go to your town hall, to your commune before the end of this year, so the 31st of December of this year, to exchange your British driving license for a Belgian one through a simple exchange procedure, which is actually the same as the one we saw in the previous slide. It's straightforward. The scenario 2, if by any coincidence, any chance, you forget about exchanging the British driving license, you can still exchange it, but this will belong to the next part of the presentation about the non-EU driving license. It takes more time, so that's why it's recommended to go to the town hall before the end of this year. I see that I have a question. Give me a second, then I'll check. So my town hall in Belgium advised me to register my German driving license at the commune in case I lose it. Okay, so that's indeed, but they saw no need for me to change it into a Belgian one. It's indeed maybe not needed at this stage, but that will be somehow mandatory within 2 years. So I hope I answer your question, Miara. Thank you for asking it. So the second question we got on our registration form is, can I keep my UK license and receive a Belgian license? So that's no, and it's always like that. When you exchange the UK driving license by a Belgian one, the Belgian town hall, the Belgian commune will keep the UK driving license. So this is actually the same for the other countries. So UK and the other countries will have the same answer. But bear in mind the idea that before the end of this year, for the UK national willing to exchange a UK driving license, it's best to do it before the end of 2020. So this is for the EU driving license. The next step will be for the non-EU driving license. So a recognized non-EU national driving license can be exchanged. So that's for sure the good news. But the good news, it's only for the recognized ones. And again, I will cover for the non-recognized after that. So they can be exchanged at the town hall for a Belgian national driving license under the following conditions. They need to be recognized, they need to be valid, they need to be obtained in a period in which the person concerned was not registered in Belgium. And I can give you a case. We had a few years ago a Russian national. She was living in Belgium, but then she got her driving license while resident in Belgium in Russia. And then that became like a nightmare for her, if I may say, to exchange it to a Belgian one. So obtained in a period in which a person concerned was not registered in Belgium. The nationality of the holder of the driving license is the same. Yeah, it looks actually quite straightforward, but it's actually needed to be said. And it needs to be authentic as well. So these 5 conditions. Let me give you a look at the recognition. Which countries are, recognized? I'm looking for my mouse. Oops, here. Okay. So same kind of page, as you can see. for the previous one, which were the EU ones. So these are for the countries outside of EU or the EEA area. So South Africa, Albania, Algeria, Andorra, Armenia, and so on. So you have this long list. So the first thing to do is, as if you are a service provider for expats, you take the driving license, the country, you look at this list. Is the driving license that you have in hand part of one of these lists? So for instance, if I take the United States of America, which is this one, which is in French again, I can click on the PDF and look at all these. Of course, they are different states. So for all the states, we have all the categories. So of course, that might not be the most straightforward example to show you, but still you can see that it's with many and lots of details. So I'll scroll down because I want to show you, well, I won't maybe too much. Sorry, I go fast, but I want to show you some pictures so you can see that it's very well documented. Well, I will give you another country that will be easier. So let's take France to keep it easy, if you don't mind. So here, these are all the formats of the driving licenses from the French nationals. You see, you learn a lot by doing this kind of job, exchanging driving licenses. But that's the website again to keep on your bookmarks. Let me go back to the presentation. So as I said, this link will be shared with you later on. So recognized, valid, obtained in a period of time the person was not registered in Belgium. That one is very important. The nationality of the holder and the driving license is the same, and it needs to be authentic. The authenticity you can check again on this website because you look at the card. So best is when you have a new, when there is a new assignee, is always first question to ask, could you please send me a scan recto verso of your driving license? That's important because that helps us to look at all the details on the website of the ministry in Belgium. Good. So then these are the different processes. So for a non-EU one, but a recognized one. The first step is after the arrival in Belgium, but before the registration with the Belgian ID card is complete. Well, I realized that I need to tell you something. Let me go back. I need to tell you something. For these people with a non-EU driving license, it's mandatory to have an international driving license when they drive in Belgium. So that's a request they do in their home country before leaving, or that they do to their consulate or their embassy in Belgium. So the international driving license together with their national driving license. Without that, they are not allowed to drive. So first step, before the registration is complete, I was telling you, indeed, you are allowed to drive with your current driving license and the international one. So that's a first recommendation to share with the expats, the assignees. The second step is after your registration is completed. So depends from one town hall to another one. It's either when you have the Belgian ID card ordered or when you have collected it. So this is something that we always double check with the town halls because, you know, each municipality, each commune, they have kind of their own regulation and implementation of the process. So for some of them, it's the first visit. For some others, it's a second visit. You know, formalities in Belgium are not quite straightforward. So that's why it's it's important to double check. I have a question from Lidwin. So thank you, Lidwin, for your question. So the international license is also a requirement. Yes, it is. It has to be together with the driving license. So it's important that they have both driving licenses. We know it's not always the case. We know the police is not stopping every single car on the road, but please have this recommendation to your clients when they are with a non-EU driving license to come with their international one. So that's a very important aspect. So when the registration is incomplete, I was telling you that depends from one town hall to another one. So that's a small detail to check by the moment you are in the process of the registration at the town hall. By this moment, you can drive again with your national one, so the current driving license and the international driving license. But please pay attention that it's only for 185 days. We cannot change anything with this rule. It's like that. So how do you calculate 185 days? It's easy. You can either go on Google to do that, or you use a formula on Excel. You type in the date of today, you select this cell plus 185, enter, and you have the date where you can start the next steps, right? But national driving license, international driving license, only 185 days when the registration is complete. Allow me to insist on these details because they are key in the process of the driving license exchange. So after the 185 days, your national driving license and your international driving license are no longer valid. So you may not drive. The assignee may not drive. It's like that. There is nothing we can do, even for us as relocation. We cannot speed up the process. It's the rule. So you need at this deadline to go to the town hall to turn in your current driving license at the town hall, because they will check it for the authentication. Okay? I made a spelling mistake, authentication. Yeah. So for some countries, you might be asked for a proof of residence in the country that has issued your driving license. So for at least 6 months before the day of issue. So what does it mean? I had a case in the past month. These are Canadians. It's a Canadian couple living in Switzerland. They exchanged their Canadian driving license to a Swiss one. So that was done in Switzerland. But by the moment they moved in Belgium, it's a non-EU, even for Switzerland, I was telling you, they need to exchange this driving license to a Belgian one. And the town hall asked them a proof of residence. So they had to send an email or call their municipality or town hall in Switzerland to get a proof of residence. So that's one of the aspects. It's on a case-by-case basis. We cannot say it's by default like that. Depends from one town hall to another one. But that's, of course, a detail, an important detail. So again, I think I said that before, but you are not allowed to drive during this time. So I know it's can be annoying for many people, but we have no choice. It's the rule again. Luckily, we have the public transportations. Luckily, we have all these electric scooters, or you walk or you bike to the office, but you are not allowed to drive during this time. I'm well aware that for some nationalities, it's more sensitive than for other nationalities. I know that in the US, for the US assignees, it's not always understandable that it's not allowed, that they are not allowed to drive during this time, because the how to say, the way they consider a car in the US is different than we have maybe in other countries, but that's a fact. You are not allowed to drive. So important to say it upfront to your client. So the duration of this period of time where you're not allowed, it's up to 16 weeks. So 2 to 4 visits to the town hall as well, depending on the commune of registration and from the issuing country. So I know it's long. It means like a maximum of 4 months. Yes, so that's again a fact that I'm sharing with you. Luckily, it's less than that, but best to give you the maximum and have a better, a good answer from the town hall when it's less than that, of course. So when the authentication is completed, the Belgian driving license is issued. So what do you do with the original driving license? They do send that to your country of origin, or it's kept at the town hall. It depends from what the town hall will tell you. Again, it's, you know, something that we always double check. What I can tell you is that by the moment, you know, for the duration of the assignment, the assignee will stay like for 3 years. He comes back to his home country for summer vacation, for instance. Still, he cannot exchange his driving license back for the period of the summer vacation. So he keeps the Belgian driving license in the US. So that's an example. The only exception that exists is for the Japanese citizen with the Japanese driving license. For them, they go before their summer vacation, they go back to the town hall, they exchange with the Japanese one, they go back to Japan. When they come back to Belgium afterwards, they exchange again. That's only for the Japanese people in Belgium. So that's another detail that I wanted to share with you. Hopefully these steps are clear for you. If you have any question, it's the moment to ask. Otherwise, let me go on the next slide, which is for then afterwards for the non-recognized one. Okay, so I move forward. For the non-EU, non-recognized driving license, these driving license holder, they can drive as long as they are not registered in Belgium. They can drive together with the international driving license. So consider these are two together, right? The national driving license and the international driving license. This goes together. So they are allowed to drive before they are fully registered. But pay attention, by the moment they have received their Belgian card, the Belgian ID number, you know, the national number, they are not allowed to drive in Belgium. And that's, again, a very important information to share upfront. So what to do for these people with a non-recognized driving license? It's simple. They need to go and pass the Belgian driving license exam, as we did us as Belgian for the national driving license. So what to do? All the details I'll share with you. But basically, you need to book an appointment at the theoretical exam. Best to do it directly after you have your Belgian residence card. You pass the theoretical test, the first aid course, you have a probationary period, you book the practical test, you pass it hopefully, and then you order the Belgian driving license at the town hall. The length of the process will change from one person to another one, of course. So it's hard to tell you now how long it takes, but we will see some values in terms of weeks in the next slide. One thing is that for those that are not French or Dutch speaking, there is a website where you can order the book to study the, you know, the road code, if I would say in English, maybe. So all these rules for the driving license. So that's the picture that you have on the screen. You can order that online, and have the information in English. Otherwise, it's everywhere available in French or Dutch, as you know, being two national languages. So that will be a slide with lots of details. I will go through all these details, but I believe it will be also easier for you to read it afterwards by yourself. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, of course. So book an appointment for the theoretical exam, as you can see on the first line, that's in person at the examination center. What do you need to bring with you? Your Belgian ID, your original ID, money for the translator fee if applicable, because that's not mandatory. And when you need to do that, it's ASAP after you have your Belgian ID. For the second step, pass the theoretical test. So that's again in person at the examination center. So you have examination center in different cities. It's true that some cities are more familiar with internationals. So I can tell you that in Brussels, it's quite easy. What do you need to bring with you? The Belgian ID, because again, at this moment you are registered, your original driving license, and 15 euro for the examination fee. One of the details you have to pass with 41 correct answers out of 50 questions. There are also websites where you can, have some trials online. The first aid course, these needs to be done. It's in collaboration with the Red Cross of Belgium. So this appointment can be made as soon as the theoretical exam has been passed. There is a website to click on to book for the course. It's a theoretical exam and a practical one, and this must be finished before the appointment can be made for the practical exam. So that's these are the steps. The probationary period. So after you pass the theoretical exam, you are supposed to go through a probationary period of 12 months. It's a year then. During this period, you can either drive unaccompanied, but not during the weekend or at night, under the condition that you have taken 12 hours lesson, or you drive accompanied by a person detaining a Belgian driving license who is registered as your mentor. So if you have a very nice colleague, that would be the way to do. What we do recommend is take lesson with the driving school, because some practicalities or some specificities in Belgium, they are easy to be shared with a teacher, and you can also shorten normally the probation period. With the next steps. So the temporary driving license is received from the town hall with the document received from the driving exam center, your original driving license plus the residence card, and the document from the embassy. So I'm at the center of the table. So you can be exempt of this period by showing a certificate of your embassy in Belgium attesting the authenticity of your original driving license. So it's a way to shorten, of course, the period of 1 year. Should you not pass a theoretical exam after 2 attempts, then it's required to follow theory classes from a driving school. Then you book the practical test. So in person again at the examination center. There is something that it's important to communicate. If you would like to pass the test on the automatic gear stick or not, with your own car or not, because these tests that are passed on the automatic car will allow you to get an automatic car license only. So what do you need to bring with you? Your Belgian ID, your original ID, the embassy's authenticity certificate, the certificate of achievement of the theoretical test, some fees for the translator when it's applicable. Then the two scenario, in case the probationary period is the long one, book the practical test at least 6 weeks before the end of the probationary period in person at the examination center. In the second case, when you have the document from the embassy, in the case, so you have the embassy certificate of driving license authenticity, think of booking the practical test on the spot right after you have succeeded your theoretical test. So you can do these things then on the very short time, as you can imagine. So to pass the practical test, it's again in person at the examination center with the following documents, some money as well, and then you can order the driving license by the moment you have then the final document. You got it. You go in person at the town hall with the Belgian ID, the achievement certificate of your driving test, your original driving license, 30 euro for the administrative fee, and 2 ID pictures. And then within the 5 days, you can go back to collect your driving license and cruise the country and enjoy being in Belgium. So that's the process for the non-EU one, non-recognized driving license. So it's a lot of details, but again, I will share with you the presentation so you will be able to look at these more in detail. Good. So that's the Belgian driving license of today. I wanted to make a joke and scan my driving license, which is a folded one. So to show you another driving license, but the picture is not, it's no more accurate, I would say. I was a student by then, so it's very different. So the driving license looks like this now. So, you know, it's a plastic card, the size of a bank card. So that's it for the presentation. I would like to know if you have any question on the presentation. No, I see that there are no questions. So if still in the coming days you have any, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer them. And of course, I wish you a very good day, a very good end of the week. Take care, take good care of you, of your beloved ones, and stay safe at home. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye.